What's going on, guys? Still here. Today I just wanted to talk a little bit about Operation Summer and why I think that the Merkava M.E.R is a possibility. Now, before we really talk about the Merkava, of course I have it in the background here in Armored Warfare, but I just want to preface this theory, or this, I don't know, just this, my opinion, considering Gaijin's recent events with Red Skies. So, whether you're aware of it or not, Gaijin had, let's just say, in air quotes, an unintentional damage model change, where I'm sure a lot of you have noticed penetrating a tank, whether it be top tier or even some with like a lot of solid shot and like World War II vehicles. You just shoot something and the shell just completely evaporates, or like gets stopped by something it never used to be. Gaijin has done, for lack of a better word, unintentional release of work-in-progress damage models. And if you shoot a Merkava in the engine, it will, no matter what round it is, as far as I'm aware, even DM53 will just get completely soaked up by it. And which is something that, in theory, is what the Merkava is built upon, that the engine will take the brunt if it gets hit in the hull. That was kind of the point. But the crew still has a fighting compartment, and they can fight for an extended period of time when the engine gets destroyed or get caught on fire or something like that. Now, this has affected literally everything. This isn't nation specific. But if you've noticed shooting a T-Series tank recently and the shot has gone through the side and hasn't done either an ammo rack or hasn't killed both of the fighting compartment crew, like the gunner and the commander, this is kind of what that is. It's just, for some reason, the interiors of tanks are just behaving differently with long run penetrators and stuff like that, to where it's just affecting the rounds spalling and penetration differently, which I don't know how realistic it is. It seems a little bit more balanced for gameplay, considering Gaijin really hasn't been. I mean, I know they just added Red Desert, but they're just, the way that they focus on gameplay dynamics, it's all weird. But anyways, that's another like topic for another day. But basically, it's something that has completely changed how tanks are behaving at top tier. Another thing is that Gaijin did a damage model change. This one was intentional. They stated this in the patch notes, that horizontal stabilizers will now be, from what I understand, like a two-part system. So you won't rip off an entire horizontal stabilizer, which, if you're wondering what that is, horizontal stabilizer is essentially just an elevator, an elevon, something like that. It stabilizes the longitudinal axis, if I remember correctly. So K50 and K52 both have an elevator and a rudder. They basically have like an aircraft tail. They're more of an unconventional helicopter design. So they basically just got a tankiness damage model buff. We already know how ridiculous it is to bring those down sometimes. The way they've changed some pressure mechanics, the S13s are basically of an even greater area of effectiveness, or being able to just kill 5 tanks all within 10 feet of each other. So it's absolutely ridiculous right now. On top of that, they just gave Russia the T-80 BVM and 2 new rounds, 3BM46 and 3BM60. 3BM46 being the top round for, I believe, the T90 and the T80U, while 3BM60 being the top round for the T80 BVM and the T72B3 with the 2016 package. As we all know, we're familiar with that T72 already. Now, all of these kind of culminated in Russia basically just stomping top tier right now, because most people are grinding Russia, and a lot of the people that are either new to top tier or don't own a lot of top tier of nations are grinding everything else, whether it be America, Germany, Britain, France, Italy, Sweden, or even China. Sometimes China is facing the Russians, other times it's being with the Russians. If you've taken a look at the matchmaker at top tier, you'll see that it might be like, at one point in the day, 100 Russians versus like maybe like 20 or 30 people of NATO queuing, stuff like that. So they basically just triple buffed Russia. The damage model changes for tanks have kind of changed the dynamics a tiny bit in top tier. But in a way, it's almost made the weakness of the Russians, which is getting shot in the side and having their turret pop off, or getting the crew, their lack of a 4th crew member getting crew killed, a lot harder to do. and again, I don't think that this was intentional. Maybe Gaijin wanted to say that it was an unintentional change to try and see how people would react to it on the live server without really saying, yeah, we did this on purpose, so they don't get backlash. Either way, they're going to get backlash. Who cares? So basically, them triple buffing the Russians has just made it so that top tier is virtually unplayable. And I'm using that term not in its literal sense where you mean like you physically can't play, but it's not very fun to do so. It's not very fun to get helicopter rush in the beginning by the best helicopters in game, supported by arguably the best SPA in game, the Tunguska, with arguably, like if you have a MiG-23 in ground battles or the Su-17, they have that multi-dimensional warfare aspect that a lot of the other nations lack in or have almost they don't have that. Some nations don't have helicopters, some nations don't have good ground attackers or superiority fires or good SPA, which they've kind of leveled that playing field out now with giving Sweden and France the Ito 90M or whatever, how you say it. So with that out of the way, when we were playing, my friends and I were playing Italy, we were playing 11.0 because for some reason the PSO is 11.0, but Scottish Koala has a video on this that he published, I believe it was today or yesterday. So obviously he already has the whole thing explained. But basically we're playing 11-0 Italy, and I'm wondering, why didn't they give America something or France a new Leclerc I know Germany doesn't really need another Leopard, do they? But basically just like how come they didn't kind of balance out the major Cold War nation versus the other major Cold War nation? And I was kind of thinking, well, who knows if they even have any information on the M1A2 SEP V3, because similar to how the T80 BVM is added, now I understand that the T80 is still just a T80 with Relic, which gives it better than K5 armor and second chance ability and stuff like that. So it's not too different, but so would the M1A2 or M1A2 SEP V3. So, and I'm not saying that America suffers and I want the M1A2 SEP V3. Actually, you can go back to one of my previous live streams. The first, I believe I missed the first dev server, but I had a video like talking about it. I actually was asking for upgrade packages versus more tanks. I thought that top tier had enough tanks, because, and we see it now, but I'll get to that in a second. But basically, I'm just thinking, like, do they really need another Abrams? Like, couldn't they just give the M1A1 and M1A2, give the M1A2 a SEP V2 package, so something, and the M1A1 say like Tusk or something, and maybe give it a newer round, stuff like that, just to kind of like equal it out, because we don't need people running 6 MBTs in their lineup. It's kind of dumb. It defeats the purpose of Gaijin adding support vehicles and stuff like that, and it just ends up just being, it's just stupid. But now we see that in the fact that the Russians have 4 very good MBTs at top tier. You have the T90, the T80U, the T80 BVM, and the T72 B3. They all just got new rounds, and it's basically having 4 top tier contenders. Germany, with the Leopard 2A6, 2A5, and 2PL, with the 2PL being slightly less because it's just a 2A4 with a turret package, they have 3 very worthy top tier contending MBTs. Britain has the Challengers, and we know what Britain's state is in, but the Challenger 2s can still be used to some effect. They're still the 2F is still a very good tank, but it's nowhere near as, in air quotes, meta as something like the Abrams or the 2A6, stuff like that. France just got both of their Leclercs. They both just got their commander removed, their commander thermal removed, so they just got a bit of a nerf. But yeah, no one really has like 4 MBTs that I can really think of, and a lot of nations like Italy and Japan, they have basically a copy of the previous MBT, 2 Type 90s, 2 Arietis. The PSO really isn't that different from their production, so stuff like that. But we've gotten to this point now where it's kind of like, do they add another Abrams, or do they milk the Americans? Because Gaijin knows how to do that. I mean, just look, they have the M60 AMBT, the Merkava Mark III, Mark II, and Mark I. So, and I actually think the Merkava Mark III is a better top tier MBT than the M1A1. in my honest opinion, I think it is literally a better top tier MBT than the M1A1. It gets an HE fuse round for helicopters. Now with the new laser rangefinder, auto rangefinding mechanic, that it's actually way better now that it's much quicker to adjust to the range, stuff like that. So I actually think it's better than the M1A1, and I'm expecting that Gaijin knows that they can make more money this summer by adding a Merkava Mark IV. I don't know how much information we actually know about the Merkava Mark IV. That's not really my field of expertise, really. That's more of like a Scottish Qual thing, like going out and researching the tank. I'm just talking about just for what we will see in the game. So I think just because of the pattern, and I've been right a lot of times, I've been wrong a lot of times, but I suspect that a Merkava Mark IV will be this Operation Summer reward vehicle. And Gaijin might make it hard. They might actually make it slightly more lenient because they know that they might know that they can't really get information on a new Abrams like Seb V3 or something, so they might just go for a Merkava instead. I mean, who knows, but I believe the Merkava would be a pretty good 11.0 contender, or Gaijin would probably just make it 10.7 because, you know, it can't be a top tier tank, but even though it would be an event vehicle, you know, who knows. But I believe that it can get something better than CL-3143. I would assume that the Israelis are not firing kind of like a last generation good round, I guess you could say. They might be firing something better than that. Of course, the Lahat ATGM is something that the Merkava is known for. The Merkava Mark III is also in a weird place where it's like it's a Baz or something like that. I'm not really familiar, but I know that it's kind of a mix of two versions of the Mark III. So I think that the Mark IV would be a likely tank. And seeing what the M60 AMBT did, and to some extent the Merkavas, all three of the Merkavas did, you know that a lot of people would have them in their lineup. They still prefer to use their Abrams for whatever reason. So I think that's where they're going with that. I mean, again, it's just a guess, seeing from their previous track record, but I think the Merkava Mark IV would be a really fun tank. I was kind of always asking more so for like a Israeli sub-tech tree under the Americans, where you would research a certain amount of rank 6s or rank 7s, and then you would be allowed to grind just a couple of handfuls. Like you could grind some of the Magaks, or, you know, the Merkavas, stuff like that. I was kind of more a proponent of that rather than them being all event vehicles, but, you know, Gaijin needs to make money for business. I understand they have scummy practices. You know, it's a whole thing. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and that's pretty much it for me today. I know it was quite a rant, but hey, that's what I'm all about. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, I'm Still Wolf. I'll see you guys next time.